What's up, everybody? Mikey Sanchez here with episode 18. Today's episode is really dope and kind of different. We're actually interviewing one of our very own, Max. You guys saw him on the Vision by Dreamers podcast, but this one's exclusively interviewing him. Me and Sal get a chance to ask him some personal questions, and it really turns into an interesting conversation about discipleship. And so I hope you guys enjoy it half as much as I did doing it. Well, I should say, if you enjoy it half as much as I did doing it, you're in for a treat. So anyways, hope you guys dig it.
And then, but as long as, because what you hear is what's being recorded, so that's what's more funny? Important.
Huh? Do you look
so
funny?
If he sounds too low, then
not because of the headphones.
On the analog.
Just kidding. All right, here we go. Okay, that's gonna replace the Redeemed broadcast
the intro.
All right.
I'm sorry, dude. No, that was great. I think on this podcast we might use that for the.
Oh my God! This is what happens when you don't have somebody that you feel like you need to be responsible in front of. Oh my gosh!
I love it.
Can you feel the nerves, bro?
A little bit. Am I sweating?
Yeah, you started sweating right now.
Is it hot?
Have another drink of this. Dude, taste it, bro. Come on.
No, I'm good.
It's really gotten good.
Oh, it's been defiled. I'm still gonna drink it, but
drink that mug, dude. He's got a little fly that flew in there. Can you show the camera real quick, dude, just so they could see what's going on?
Here, where's the camera?
Look at that, dude. Look at that, dude. A little bug flew in his coffee. I wonder how many guests have accidentally had little bugs fly in their coffee. And then just in order to not make it awkward, they just shrink them. Oh my gosh, dude. This is going to be a wacky night. I can feel it. I didn't get much sleep last night.
It's going to be great. All right, let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this evening. I pray that you would go before us with friends, one another, that we would just have conversation, Father, that is, Lord God, beneficial, Lord, not only to us, but to the body, Father. May we learn more about one another in this podcast. I pray, Father, for insight on our friend Max. I pray, Father, that we would just learn something new about our friend tonight, Lord God, that he would grow as a believer, as an artist, Father, as a young man. We thank you, and in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Redeemed Podcast, episode 18. We have with us tonight Max Garcia. Max, how you doing, bro?
What's up? I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Dude, I liked when we did like our music one, and like it was like a real serious moment, and you accidentally headbutted with your hat.
That's why I haven't turned around.
Don't do it. Oh, hilarious.
Dude. What were you up to today, Max?
School.
Yeah,
school.
How's school for you right now? Well, let's tell people a little bit about what you do, Max. What do you do
at school?
Just in general.
In general, okay. So I'm 18. I go to college at Mount Sac.
He likes long walks on the beach.
I don't know.
What are you taking?
I'm taking like your basic English and math class, and then I'm taking like an intro to television and radio.
How's that going?
Ooh.
It's pretty cool. It's kind of just like teaching us about like this kind of stuff. Like,
okay,
yeah, it's like it's not much television, but it's more radio. Like who started radio?
Can I ask you an honest question, dude? Like, how much of it have you like applied to like what we do here? None of it.
Like 5% of everything.
Yeah.
Why is that? You think it's just because it's like they're talking about different applications, or
yeah, it's more like how much revenue this company made in this year. It's not. Yeah, it's not really
like hands-on application.
Yeah.
Where's that class? Like, where's the
I know.
hands-on?
Wait, and it's all online right now, right?
Yep.
So that's
Gotta suck.
yeah, that's gotta be like
Yeah.
I gotta
Basically,
go
you're just making yourself sit in front of a camera
Yeah.
to get the grades.
to
right?
radio theory.
Story of my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
dude.
Pretty much.
Okay, so I was like an A student in trade school, like all the hands-on. I'm like a teacher's worst nightmare, right? Because I'll be like in a class, and when a teacher explains something, the only way I can learn is by saying it back to them and getting like basically teaching them what they just taught me and getting from them like absolutely wrong, which I look forward to just as much as like, oh, absolutely right. And if I'm wrong, then I need them to teach me it again. And I'm like demanding kind of like that as a student. I mean, this is the way I learn. So ever since we went to like online classes, dude, I'm not learning anything, bro. I'm like I think I might be failing right now. Pretty bad, dude. And I'm just like, you know what? Like, whatever. Like, here's the thing. Like, if I like quit and didn't do what I should, then they'll always be like, man, I probably should have been responsible.
Yeah.
But if I'm trying and I'm failing, whatever. Dude.
Yeah, online class is hard. Well, especially so if it's like every week you have to do it at that set time. Like I can imagine that's kind of like
Yeah.
because I
School
took
kills artists.
an online class, but I could choose to do it like when I wanted to, which kind of made it helpful.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
And then
Where's
I-
that class? There's classes to do when you want
Bible
to?
college, bro.
That's
Bible college.
dope.
So you're in school, you're doing that. You're also this genius when it comes to music. I think that's kind
Is
of
that
like
okay?
one of the
Real
things-
quick, I want to know something honestly, bro. Like
Yeah.
your personality type. Is that hard? Like when because Nick hurls like some compliments at you, so they're like, dude, this guy is a freaking amazing. You're the
chosen
prodigy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it hard?
A little bit. It's a little like I don't feel that way yet, at least. Like,
Okay.
I feel like I'm not like as great as like he says, but like
Got
I don't
you.
know. Like I haven't.
Young Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
No, but see, here's the
Yeah.
thing. Like, and I'll shoot you. I'll always shoot you straight, bro. Like, but it's because of the growth. Like, it's because of the rapid change. And like when you've been like one of the hardest things is like a rapper from a rapper's perspective. When you're working with somebody making a beat, like somebody will send you a beat and it'll be fire. You're like, oh, dude, that beat was freaking dope. But then when you go to create with him, it's like trying to catch lightning striking twice. Like it's not. So when you find somebody that like consistently puts out stuff, like that's just rare. That's what it is. And so I say that to you not to blow you up, but to encourage you to like take seriously the amount of effort you put into it. Because if a kid is like a supernatural, like they say that what was the redheaded kid that did like skateboarding, snowboarding, just like champion and everything? Shaun White, dude. So Shaun White was a freaking natural, right? Like he was just like incredibly natural, but then he added on top of that work ethic where he was like, and that just made him incredible. You know, so I that's the reason why I try to encourage you that way. But I get a little, I don't know if it's just because me and you are close. Like I get a little uncomfortable when people are like, "This guy's the greatest." You know, it's like, "Oh, that's hard." I don't know if it's just that I'm perceiving that it's hard for you, or
it's a little awkward sometimes. Yeah.
Right on. So now you're jumping into music, and I'm kind of curious. Well, you know what? We kind of actually talked about this a little bit on our last podcast about some of your music influences. What are you listening to right now?
A lot of, actually, honestly, Macklemore and Ryan Lewis's album, just because that's where me and him draw influence from. It'll be like Macklemore, Mac Miller, Chance the Rapper, and then like old stuff like a part of Mr. Rogers soundtrack or like old Disney songs.
Yeah.
That's kind of like our influences right now.
Sick, dude.
Yeah, so like not to make because what the heck, like so there's a chemistry between me and him that is similar in audio to the chemistry between Ryan Lewis and Macklemore. In that
explain for me the chemistry between Ryan Lewis and Macklemore.
okay, so Macklemore was like a rapper already. and he did some stuff, dude. Like, but he was not standout, bro. Like, I mean, he's a decent. I think he's pretty dope actually as an MC, but he doesn't really become standout until he clicks up with Ryan Lewis, and Ryan Lewis is like a music guy, dude. Like he worked on amazing tracks that are non-hip hop. Some of my favorite tracks that I have like downloaded in my music that were like very soundtracky and stuff. And when he clicks up with Macklemore, they made The Heist, and The Heist was literally a record setting. It was ice breaking. It was trend setting. It was a pioneer of what they did. Now, later on, the lines would become blurred between what really an independent artist is and how much help they get, because Macklemore and Ryan Lewis still knew people to be able to get certain things out there, and that stuff's been like brought up. And so, but they were recognized as the first completely independent artists, and they won a Grammy. Yeah, they won a Grammy for that album. And the hip hop world, music world, went crazy when that happened, because it was believed that the music industry was like a giant that you couldn't compete with without them. It would be like someone it'd be like if somebody started an NFL team and weren't connected to the NFL and were able to play against and then won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So their audio sound is not overly hip hop. Like if you listen to the album, it's not like trying to be hip hop. It's like music and rap, and it's really dope. And then I think, this is my personal opinion, I think Max has a lot of influence, not purposely, but his beats sound a lot like a lot of things Ryan Lewis does. Not like copy by any means, but just like the way music and like audio is like brought into like a song, and it's almost cinematic. That's the thing that I love about the project we're working on, which maybe we could talk a little bit about, like the Mike Rogers project that I'm working on, because it is very cinematic. It is ultra like one of the problems I had with Logic's albums, which are super cinematic, is that they're overly cinematic in like script. Like it's like they're forcing you to know that they're in space and that, you know, like it's like a script, right? But our like cinematic beats are like imaginatively taking you places that maybe a person could listen and not even fully catch that we were
like
watching.
super subtle, like hints of like you're here, like
dude. Definitely. There's like a skit in there where we were watching old footage of Disney Walt, right? Walt Disney Walt. And we were just vibing on him, huh? Really? We were just like watching him. Yeah. And we're also like really obsessed with like timelessness. So like things that are like, you know, that are like past, like it's not what's happening right now. And just capturing like the amazingness about that. Like there's something about the way Walt was respectful to the camera.
Everything, like the way he walked, like talked, even like certain syllables, like we're just like fascinated by it. So we kind of like put that into some of our skits and music, kind of.
Right on.
Say.
So what do you find yourself like enjoying the most about like making music right now?
I think just making stuff, like just being able to create something that like could take you somewhere, like in your head, I think is super cool.
I've heard something that artists have said before. I've never given it too deep a thought, but I want to share it with you. And I know some Christian artists that believe that the reason why we're drawn to creativeness is because we're the only species, according to the Bible, that was created in God's image. So like everything else, animals, all that other stuff weren't created after himself. Only human beings were created after his own image, right? And being that he's the creator, like inevitably into us is the desire to create. So like it's not that we're trying to be gods as much as we are reflecting the one who created us, and that we thoroughly enjoy creating the creative process. So I've heard that said before, and I've always just kind of like listened to it and never been like, oh, that's true, but just been like, damn, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I do feel that way a little bit when I'm creating something, especially when it comes together.
Yeah.
Like that's What do you think will spark? We talked a little bit about it, but I want you to share, like, will spark inspiration. Like,
Yeah, I talked about it in the last podcast. Like, anything could spark like inspiration, like imagination in me. Like, whether it be like sounds I hear, something I see, you know. Like I don't know why, but like I'll hear like certain sound, like when I'm driving or something, and I'll like hear like a bell like pass by. Be like, dang, that sounds cool.
yeah. I watched it happen. We were watching the early, I think it's Disney. It's a story of Ichabod Crane.
The cartoon?
The cartoon.
Yeah.
So we're watching that, and I'm like, dude, I used to watch this when I was a kid every Halloween. Somebody asked me, his dad, everybody left the room, and it was just me and his dad. He's like, what do you feel like watching? I'm like, it was Halloween. I'm like, honestly, I feel like watching the cartoon version of Ichabod Crane. Like,
I don't think I've seen that since I was like 5.
I mean,
And
it's,
I still remember it.
yeah. So I was like, that's what I want to watch. I mean, to me, that's like Halloween tradition. Like, hand out some candy, sit in the living room, and put on a non-scary Halloween thing. You know, it's like Peanuts, like Halloween, or like, I like that, right? So I told him that, and he's like, oh, I've never seen it. Oh, I've never heard of this. And he just threw it on. Well, people just kind of gravitated into the living room once it was on, including Max. And then I'm like, dude, check this out. Like, Bing Crosby did like the vocals here, and like this is a kind of a golden era of music, actually.
Which was super like funny because I was actually Halloween. I like just threw on like a bunch of Christmas music just because I was like in the mood, and Bing Crosby is someone who I really enjoy like Christmas music with. So that was just like funny.
Funny
just, like,
coincidence.
Yeah.
So there we are sitting down, and I'm watching. I'm always perceiving Max because I don't know, he's just one of my favorite people. So I'm like watching him watch this, and there's a scene where there's like a crew of singers. Like they're like a group kind of, and they start singing this one particular thing, dude. And
What happened?
I'm sorry. You know what I just realized, dude? I hate to interrupt. The what we're recording on OBS right now is literally all of that. Everything you see right now. I totally thought, I was like, you got it. It's fine.
What is it?
It like, okay, so everything you see right now is gonna be in the image, but maybe you could crop it, like
crop
just
it
just the first part of it. That's all right. It's okay. I could change it right now. You've been switching back and forth? Good job. Okay. Sorry. I was like, you know what? Hold on.
Oh no, that's.
that's all right. It wasn't an important guest, anyways. I couldn't help it, dude. I had to seize the moment, dude. Seize your moment. So anyways, we're watching. Sorry, I was messing up anyways when I was talking about a group of singers. There's like whoever was making like the audio on there obviously had Bing Crosby in on it, and they collectively sing this like harmony like thing, and he was like, oh, like he literally like in his body language was like, oh, there. And I saw what inspiration looks like, dude. I was like, oh, there it is. Like, that's the thing, dude.
It was there was the girls who sing with Bing Crosby.
Yeah.
Right? Something sisters.
Yeah, the Papini sisters or something like that.
Yeah, I was
Andrew's.
Yeah,
Andrew's sisters.
Yeah.
Um.
And like it was like a musical scene or something.
Yep.
And like they had this like harmony that just like blew my mind kind of.
Yeah.
Right
Super
on.
sick.
So you guys are hanging out, family. Obviously, if our guests don't know, you guys are uncle, nephew, which is pretty cool. You guys get to make music together. I'm curious more towards your family. Like, you have siblings? You got. I know you have.
Yeah.
Talk
Talk about where you grew up. Like, where were you born, and like, where did you grow up? Like,
So I grew up in Pomona and here in La Puente. And just because my grandma lives over here, so we would come over here all the time.
why were you like halfway in between your house and your grandma's house all the time?
Just because I go to school over here and they're near here, so while my mom went to work or while my parents went to work, I would stay with them. Like
Okay.
when I was younger, I would stay with them, and I came to school over here.
Did you like staying with your grandparents, or you didn't think about it? It just was life.
I think it was just it was just like, this is what we do.
When I
Like,
get out of school, I go to my grandparents and then wait for
Yeah.
my parents.
Mm-hmm.
Got you.
Yeah. Then I live in Pomona, and I've been there all my life.
How many siblings you got?
I got 2 younger sisters.
Right on. So how far apart in age are you guys?
We're all 3 years apart.
Oh, okay. That's kind
All of you guys 3
I
years?
think so.
That's
yeah.
crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Right
Were
on.
you a shy kid when you were like a kid, like in school, or were you like?
I feel like as I grew older, I got more shy.
Yeah, because I remember I hear stories about you when you were little, and you're
Yeah.
like kind of a performer in a weird way. Like,
Yeah. I think as I grew older, I kind of just like got in my shell or something.
do you ever think of why or not? Just
I don't know. I'm not really sure.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought. I mean, here's what's interesting to me too is like you seem like a person who would have a real hard time doing like this, right? Like because you don't seek the limelight, but you're
Yeah.
not as bad as some people that come on. Sorry, Freddie. I mean, you could tell that they're super affected by microphones and headphones and their voice and stuff. So that trips me out. That might contribute to the fact that when you were a kid, you weren't super shy.
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
You know. So you're growing up in what elementary school did you go to?
Telesis. So elementary is, well, I kind of switched around actually. I went to La Seda, which now is a different school, I think. And then I went to Hollingworth, which is down the street, for 1 year.
I went to Hollingworth for 1 year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Both of you guys for 1 year?
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
went
is
for
interesting.
3rd grade.
Huh.
1 year. And then I went to Telesis 4th through
6th?
8th.
Oh, okay, it was one of those schools.
Yeah, 4th through 8th.
So they like burned junior high into that school. Got you.
Yeah.
Then high school.
Nogales. all 4
Nogales,
years.
right here,
Yeah,
like
down
right
the
up the
street.
street.
Yep.
Get like not ghetto, but ghetto at the same time.
Yeah.
I would say ghetto, not necessarily like gang style, but ghetto like crazy people stuff.
Yeah, we had a crazy experience last week.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Dude,
That's crazy.
some almost like
Homeless
demonic
demonic.
prostitute. Like,
It's funny, dude, because I don't throw around demonic stuff a lot. I'm not about that. I'm not like, oh, you could tell there was a spirit. Like, whatever, dude. People are just crazy and on drugs or whatever. But that lady had some crazy, bro. When we went, okay, because just to let like anybody listening, like we're sitting after a podcast. Sometimes if there's time to burn, especially if it's on like a Friday or something.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like we go and get tacos at this bomb taco truck, but it's right outside of a parking lot that has pretty much mostly abandoned like buildings, or at least the supermarket that was there is
Sketchy
abandoned.
parking lot.
And then the one of the companies that's there is like super sketchy. It's like, dude, what is it, like a
Video,
vape?
yeah, shout out Video 94. they're like the biggest head shop like
Yeah,
in our
it's
town.
got the gnarliest people going in and
Yeah.
out of there.
Yeah.
And then it's like druggies all around everywhere you can see. And this is literally across the street from the high school.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
literally, right? So we're there and like some woman is, you know, she gets, I'm not gonna get into all the details. She gets dropped off by some dude, basically just pushed out of her
Yep.
car. Then she's wandering around in like a floozy kind of outfit. Can't really tell what it is.
It was
but
kind of like a blanket at
yeah,
first.
I don't know
It was
what
weird.
she's wearing. And then, but then she disappears behind a building and then starts screaming her lungs out like scary
Yeah.
style.
I got scared that someone was, I was like, because I was like, dude, what if someone's like in trouble? And you're like,
Yeah.
dude, like imagine we're just standing here and somebody's like getting raped. And I was like, all right.
I couldn't live with that idea in my head, like, you know.
So I was like, all right, well, we could check from a distance, you know, like we could just go like walk this way in the parking lot.
All I wanted to see was like somebody not getting raped. Like it pretty much could have been anything she was doing, but I just don't want like, you know, so me and Sal, I remember specifically, I like tightened my boots because I'm like, I might have to run. I don't know what's going on because it was a scary scream.
Yeah.
And then me and Sal are like angling at a distance, like just watching more and more vision come around the corner, right? Like, and right when we get to her, it's like The Ring. It's like a scene out of The Ring. It's her back turned to us, her hair straight down and like behind her, and her arms just like flailing, like
Weird demonic dance.
yeah, dude. Like, and
Crazy.
I was like, yeah, okay, it's time to go. That's it. Like, she doesn't need help. I mean, she needs help, but doesn't need my help. Like,
Yeah.
and we pretty much got out of there. And other chapters in my life, if I felt led to, I might have gone and shared with her or something. But at that moment, I was looking at what was going on there, and I was like, yeah, that's probably time to go, dude.
Yeah. But Nicoletta's in prayer for her.
Yeah, I
you know?
remember that.
So it's like
it was pretty heartbreaking in some ways, but then in another way, it was kind of scary.
yeah, for sure. So you grew up going to Nogales High School.
Right there. And saw that lady as a child.
Oh my gosh. So growing up, were you a Christian?
I don't know. That's like I wasn't. We went to church. My mom's a Christian. She took us to church. You know, like Golden Springs, and it was kind of one of those things where like it was like Sunday morning. Like you don't really want to go. You're like a little kid, you know.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
And but we would go. You know, like sit.
What's your earliest memory of church?
I don't. Probably sitting in like one of the classrooms, like little kid, like
The little kid
coloring
classrooms?
or something.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
like
okay.
VeggieTales on the screen.
Okay, yeah.
I think, yeah,
So you know who VeggieTales are?
yeah.
That's funny, dude. Because I wasn't a part of like the church culture as a kid, so like I'll trip out on like older people like watching little kids, and then like a song will come on, and all of them would be like VeggieTales, like they like laugh, and I'm like, wow, I really missed out like on something. Everybody knows it, but
I was in love with VeggieTales when I was a little kid, dude. I would like try to do good things so my parents could see, and then I'd be like, hey, can I get another VeggieTale video? Like somehow bring it up.
your collection.
I know I had a pretty big collection too of VeggieTales.
What
dude.
happened to that collection?
The Lord, dude. I don't know.
It floated away.
I think the little kids, my nieces and nephews, still watch it. Dude, I had some crazy memories if I look back, because I also grew up at Golden Springs. And some of my childhood, like earliest memories are at that church, and some of the things like from good Bible stuff to then like just crazy kid stuff. Like I remember they were teaching us to learn all the books of the Bible at such a young age. And I was like, every week you would show up, and if you could recite like all the Old Testament books, like you get like this little like toy or something. I remember having a memory like that. And then I also remember, I think I was in like second grade, and there was this kid, like during worship, everybody stood up, and like I just learned this trick as a little kid. I was probably like in first or second grade, dude. Like right when everybody was about to sit down, like I pulled his chair out from underneath him, dude.
God.
And like he went to sit down, and he was just like, boom, just like flat on his butt. And then all of a sudden he just went, and I was just like, oh shoot, like, I'm sorry. And the teacher was just like, Sal, why did you do that? I was like, it's just a trick I learned.
Oh man,
That was some of my earliest memories at church, man.
crazy.
But so were you guys going like pretty consistently?
Yeah, I would say so.
Wow. Right on.
Yeah.
Can you remember any of your teachers at all, or what's your earliest teacher you can remember? Scott.
No, actually, I saw him in like a photo the other day. It's like he's like a white guy. I think fourth grade. Teacher?
Walt? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Is he really tall?
Oh yeah, kind of tall.
I think
Or no?
maybe. I think he wears glasses sometimes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
him.
might be Walt.
That's crazy.
Yeah, him. I remember he would always like remember my name, and I thought that was kind of weird because I didn't see church as like a place where you knew people.
Yeah.
It was kind of you go and you sit and listen and you leave. But like, I remember he'd always be like, "Hey Max, what's up?" And I thought that was pretty cool.
That's crazy.
I remember him. Yeah.
So you learned about Jesus growing up as a kid. So you knew like the stories.
The stories. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, I did not know that. I thought you were like grand
Godless.
spank. Yeah, godless demon child.
That's interesting. Okay, so then you like does church stay consistent? Like your family always goes, or kind of like
No, it's like in and out. Like sometimes we'll go, sometimes we won't go.
yeah, I got you.
Just like that.
Did that happen more as you got older, or
Yeah, I think
okay,
so.
so it was more like consistent at one point, and then like kind of like
Yeah.
got you. Okay, so once like you're growing into your own man, and you're not like always at the church, right? What do you feel about God at that moment? The same place, same thing, or
I think I always believed in God. You know, it was never like I'm gonna stop believing in Him. Like just go away.
got you?
It was always like I know there's God. Like always praying. Like like before we eat or whatever. Before we go to sleep.
So there's something that I think that to me stands out, bro, and that's that there was something kind of missed right there, like. And I want to remember this because obviously I'm raising Rowan. That's my daughter. If anybody's watching doesn't know. My daughter has kind of a boy's name. Rowan is actually the name of Mr. Bean. Like that's his real name. His name's
Really?
Rowan. Yeah,
Okay.
that's funny. That's not why I named her Rowan, but I do like Mr. Bean, so it's cool. But I think about these things though because I think about this. So like here you had a kid who believed in God, wasn't opposed to God, but it was never truly communicated to you the defining moment in a person's life that they can give their life to, they have by their own free will.
Yeah, like relationship,
Yeah,
relationship
man,
with
that's kind of like interesting to me because Calvary Chapel Golden Springs is very forward of like, I mean, there's an altar call given every single week for people to get saved. And it's very forward about the gospel, the story of being born again. Like, and yet somehow like a kid who wasn't opposed to it, like kind of slipped between the cracks of like that being communicated to you. But I think I don't want to blame by any means because I think it has more to do with the hand of God allowing you to have a defining moment. Because another thing that I see happen to like young people is they actually got saved like 15 times. Once when they were like 5, and once when they were like 9, and once when they're at a retreat and they were almost 10. And there's all these moments that like a teacher was like, it's time for you to give your life to God, you know? And they're like, their friend did it and their other friend. So like they're going and doing it. And then they end up with this sort of like smudged, like I, was kind of in a relationship with God, but because my friend did it, you know what I mean? Like, but for you, I think it's more like God orchestrating like this defining moment that you're kind of held accountable to because it was like me who was there, right? So that's interesting. I'm curious, dude, like, because I only seen that day from one perspective. So what made you, was there anything that made you feel like I want to do this right now? Can you remember or not?
Yeah,
really?
it was I can't remember what we were talking about, but it was a drive back home from that day we were here. It was like we were talking about like something, and then I asked you about like, I think we were talking about Jesse. I don't know why. But then
Shout out Jay, dude, if you're watching, dude. Like,
actually, we're talking about you baptizing him at the beach. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it was. I remember now.
Yeah.
So I was telling Max, just sharing with you the story. I was telling Max of how disconnected from religion your relationship with God can start. Like, it's not just like I go to church, I'm a part of a church, and that's why I believe what they believe. And I was like, dude, like take for instance Jay. Jay gave his life to the Lord. Okay, his parents, he came from a Pentecostal background, right? Which is ultra like where people are like shouting and jumping and hallelujah and like speaking in tongues, and the worship is everybody like, And I've seen that. I've even visited. Everybody's yelling amen, and people are laying hands on each other, and it's just very Pentecostal. Okay, so Jay's dad disappeared, not in his life when he's a kid. And then his mom married a man who was a pastor of a Pentecostal church. Ralph. I remember Ralph because Ralph talked to me a lot about Jesus too when I was young. But Ralph had he was very churchy, very Christ, a lot about that stuff. But he also had this temper, and I could see the tension in the house. It was he was a little bit intimidating to me as a kid. I can't say I ever saw him do something way out of line. Maybe we could talk to Jay one day about some of that stuff. I don't want to cast anything.
Right.
But I do know this is that Jay was raised in the Christian home, the Christian ministry, not just home. They did church at their house, and it was he was. And in Pentecostal movement, it is very the moms and the pastor and his wife are both pastors in the Pentecostal church. That's the pastor and his wife also a pastor. And then the pastor's kid is the anointed kid. That's the pastors two pastors getting together and creating a pastor child.
Yeah.
Even to I'm serious. Yeah. Even to the degree, not all of them, even to the degree where people will be a little kid who's a pastor's kid, they'll be let the pastor's kid pray for us. Pastor's kid is going to pray for us.
I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah, and so there was a lot of that in the air, right? So Jay had this bro, I've seen it all. By the time I met Jay and started sharing with him, because I saw this rebellious kid, right? He was rebelling against forced religion on him. His mom and stepdad had now gotten a divorce, and so that church thing that was forced on him was now not forced on him anymore. He got super into metal. He was shredding as a kid on he would put his speaker to the highest volume facing out of his garage as a kid. I'm talking a little kid, dude. And he would be crazy, right? And I'm telling Max the story about Jay and how he knew me as a kid because I wasn't a Christian. And one of the things, when I was young, and even to the younger generations, is they seen me again, a couple fist fights, and so that's kind of how I built a little reputation with the young kids in the neighborhood, right? And Jay knew that about me, right? He knew me in that lighting. And then I was in a massive accident, but dude, I can't wait for Jay to tell this story, dude. He had a dream. He knew me, but he was just a kid kind of to me. He had a dream that I was in an accident the day before I was in an accident.
On your motorcycle?
No, on a car accident that flipped over where I got that gnarly scar. Man.
Your Fight Club scar.
Yeah. Fight Club. Have you seen Fight Club? Fight Club when they kiss the hand right there? I know. Anyways. So I told, he saw me come out, and I was on crutches, and my arm was all wrapped up. I was jacked, but I was just coming out on painkillers and stuff. And that kind of impacted him. But later on, we became tight through music, oddly.
So he was just in relation to you. Jay was just a friend for you.
He was a kid. Yeah.
Okay, I thought
a kid on the block.
I thought he might have been a relative for some reason.
No, Jay. Well, dude, he's my family.
Yeah.
But no, he lives next door to my first friend as a kid, whose also name is Jesse, which is why little Jesse Jay is referred to as little Jesse in a lot of circles, even though he's not. Yeah, he's not little at all, dude. So I always tell people it's little John, So, but so I'm telling him this story about Jay, and so Jay starts hanging out with me and a close friend of mine, my best friend Miguel Mendoza, who we called Peanut, and me and him were rappers as kids. We wanted to be rappers, dude. So once we started making music with Jay started going everywhere with us. He was also a young man, dude. He must have been, God, I wish he was here to verify. I think 18 years old when he starts rolling with us everywhere. And one day I'm asking him, because he's watching us, he's going with us places, and I'm like, hey, when did you get saved? He's like, bro, I was raised in church. I'm like, yeah, but that means nothing, bro. And I kind of was like, oh shoot, am I being offensive? I'm like, but when, did you ever? He's like, I've never done that, bro. I was like, dang, dude. And so he gave his life to the Lord in a Costco parking lot in a deep conversation with me and Peanut, Miguel Mendoza. And then later on, his baptism was the same. So I had been baptized when I was young, though. Like my mom was sick, and like they wanted to make that commitment. Like they wanted a fresh start. So they went and got baptized, and as a family, we all went together. And so like I just like jumped in on that, but it was never my own decision. And so years later, we need to do this, by the way. We used to like to drive to the beach while it was still dark and then watch the sun come up. Like, well, you guys done it surfing, I guess. And while we were out there one day, like Peanut was just like, bro, I ain't ever been baptized. Like, I want to be baptized. And I'm like, dude, immediately the story came to mind about Philip. You know, and I'm like, dude, I mean, if you're a believer, there's no reason why. There's nothing holding you back from being baptized. And I remember it was literally like spontaneous. I was like, we could do it right now.
Wait, Peanut or
Peanut?
Oh, wow.
Peanut.
Okay.
I'm like, we could do this right now.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, let's do it, dude. And then, so I'm like, Jay, give me a hand, dude. So I walk. Jay's out just with me. And we walk out to the water and we baptize Peanut. And then Jay's like, we're in the water already. Jay's like, dude, I want to get baptized. And I'm like, let's do it, dude. And so we baptized Jay. Me and Peanut baptized Jay. This is like, it's still dark, bro. It's barely getting light. Like we're out there like, and then I'm like, you know what, dude? Like I got baptized as a kid. But like, dude, do me next, dude. Yeah. And we baptized each other. But my point to Max was that Christ is not like subject under religion. Like he's the main thing. He's the main thing. And religion is like following that. That's why you'll hear certain pastors say, I'm not about religion, I'm about relationship, you know. And I don't want to belittle what true religion is, because the Bible says true religion is not, it doesn't use it as a bad word. But I wanted to make clear to this young man who had been to church, and so I did, right? Like I told you about that. Now, can you remember the way that transitioned to yourself, though? I can't remember, dude.
I can't remember either. But I was listening to that, like he told me that story in the car ride home. And then I just felt like, I don't know what it was. It was like, it was like something that's like I want to do that. Like, I just felt it. Like,
I also remember you guys did come up too in that conversation on the ride home. And it was about being not a slave to this world, like how everybody lives in blindness. Remember that? Like everybody lives like just plugged in. What are you gonna do with your life? And what are you gonna get married? And and that's the way the whole world lives, right? And I was like, and you know those guys, dude, like you and Nick and Jay, like, dude, those guys are not plugged in. Like those guys are disconnected from that like robotic slavery of life, and they know the creator, bro. And that I think is what it was. Yeah, he was like, I want that.
Yeah.
Wow. So what did that feel like then? What made you just like, okay, like I'm just gonna do this?
Yeah, it was like just like I want that, like, you know, like. And then we did it outside of my house in the driveway. In the driveway of my house, yeah.
And I'm kind of curious, like, in these, like, because that was like maybe a year ago.
No, it was like
a year and a half ago.
A year and a half ago. Okay. Like, what are your first like few thoughts of Christ or God, like now, as like when you look back to those times of like, what was it like knowing God?
It was like he knows everything. Like, it was just like, that was like super cool. Like, like he's in control. Like I know that for sure. And it was kind of like nothing else really mattered, kind of almost.
Yeah,
it was just like dude, like
I know the creator.
just like take control. Yeah, I was like, I don't
Yeah.
know. It was just like that feeling.
That's crazy. I remember. I knew instinctively from there on out that I would have to consider that I'm always representing Christ to him. Like, I would have to consider that, like, from then on, for all the years that I'll ever know him. Actually, that's in my mind, because, like, one of the promises I kind of made to myself in that conversation was like, dude, God isn't like found through just religion. Like, he is real. He is real. And he is in control of my life, and he's in control of your life, and Nick's life, and Jay's life. And now he's in control of Max's life. And one of the things I tried to make clear, and I always try to make this clear, is the handing over the authorship of your life. Like, and I think I did share that there. Like, your life is not yours anymore. I remember hitting that home is heavy, if not heavier than just like the fact that God forgives you, which I talked about, all God forgiving everything we've ever done. But that handing over of your life, like, it doesn't belong to me. And that stuff will show up. It's crazy. Like, it does still in my life. Like, when things are going on that are tough, or I'll remember, like, you know what? I gave my life over. Like, I'm not, this life belongs to him. And that really comes to play at a person as you experience the next chapters of your life, right? Which will be like love or heartbreak or provision, like career, like doors open.
Correct me if I'm wrong too, but it seems like you didn't come from this high school career background, because you got saved when you were 18, but it doesn't seem like you came out of this really like dark, crazy testimony type thing. You doesn't, I don't know if you like got into drugs or anything like that. Never did that. Wow. So that's a blessing already, because gosh, God can just really like use a mind that is clear, you know, and like you don't have all that damage, but what that tells me is that God kept you throughout all those years. Like, and of course, like, he's gracious to us, and he's kept other people, and he's removed a lot. But what I see in your life is just kind of like really a commitment, like from going from like just the knowledge of like, okay, God exists, to then saying, okay, God, like, I want you to be my God, like personal. So then what happens after you get saved and it's been a year and a half? Like, what is it? Your relationship turn into?
Yeah, what's some of the stuff that's happened along the way that you see like the hand of God? Like,
I think it's just a lot of growing. Like, I don't like, I know it's been a year and a half, but I still feel like I'm pretty new. You know, like,
yeah, because this has been a crazy year and a half too, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I just,
so like some doors I've seen closed though, like there could be like a girl who's like super like, and then all of a sudden gone.
Yeah.
And I remember some conversations being, I mean, I'm not trying to feed you, like,
yeah, just, you know, I think like he's saying, like, girls, just like a girl I really like, but then God just being like, honestly, like I feel like God hasn't put like a girl like in my life because he wants my relationship to grow with him first. Like, that's what I've come to conclude, I guess. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't know. If
solid,
that's,
bro. That's like super solid.
Yeah, I feel like that's been happening.
Yeah, because you know, and this is just like a moment to like share something that's true. Like, like in my marriage, like if Pal meets me a year before she met me, she meets a different version of me. Right? So like, you got to trust God's authorship, and you got to trust him in a few things, dude. You got to trust him in his timing. You got to trust him in his plan. but you also got to submit that he doesn't force people. He gave us free will. So that's the one thing that always lies in the balance. Like me, I could be married, I could have like the baby, I could have a house, but my wife has free will to draw near to God or not. Like I have free will to draw near to God or not. And the dynamic of our relationship is affected by those free wills. And so that's a big part of sometimes too, like God protecting people in that, like sometimes you'll love somebody and you'll be like, dude, I wish I could have met you when I was a kid. Like, I wish that you're the only person I ever cared about, you know? But as much as that sentiment is like awesome and beautiful, that like, dang, that'd be a great story. The truth is, dude, that we arrived to the ages that we arrived to when things happen to us, and we're not the same people that we were before. And so you have to respect like the molding process in your own life from God, and you have to respect also the free will of other people, and you have to respect the molding process of God in their lives and other people's lives, you know? So that all becomes like, sorry, my eyes freaking messing with me. That all becomes part of trusting the authorship of God. And there's a cool verse, dude, that says, it's hard for you to kick against the goads. And it's a weird Old Testament verse, but it verbiage. But I want to share with you what it means, dude. So a goad is a stick that's super pointy. Do you know this? Okay, a goad is like a long stick that's super pointy. And when the farmer has the ox in front of him there, and he's pulling like his plow or his hay or whatever, they will start to go off the path of where they're supposed to be going. And he uses that stick, if they start veering to the right, to poke and get them back in line, right? Now, a non-stubborn, like a very submissive ox, as soon as he gets a little poke, he gets in line. But a super rebellious ox will take more poking, and even to the point worse, will sometimes kick back at that stick. Now that stick is super strong and pointy, and when they kick back is where they get their injuries. And so the Bible uses that illustration to teach us that we make our lives harder when we kick against the things that are a little bit painful that God uses to get us back in line. So there's like these moments in our life where they seem a little painful, but believe me, they're more painful when you rebel. When you're like, you know what? I don't accept what God's saying. Like, I'm taking this out of your life. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to go and that's when you start kicking to get off the path, right? And you start kicking against, and you wounding yourself deeper. And honestly, dude, I feel like using this opportunity to share to a lot of people out there that there will be a lot of divorces and single children being raised in single parent homes, and all the stuff that comes with that stuff because of people kicking against the goads. Like, because when God was like, no, like, this is not like they rebelled against it, and they're like, no, I want to do my thing. You know what this is like. You see your own little sister like rebelling against it, you know? And so I don't know why I railed so far off. Like,
no, it's cool. I wanted to ask you in regards to this part of your walk now, because you became a Christian and you're trying to follow this path. Does it get lonely sometimes?
Yeah. I don't know. Like, sometimes it does. Yeah.
Because I'm sure now and then like right when COVID hit, like then there's even more separation, and just knowing like your personality, your character, and like seeing how like you kind of have like this space and time where you have some freedom. I'm just like wondering, like, man, like I don't know if he has a lot of like Christians friends who are his age who could kind of come alongside you and just like hang out all the time.
Nothing.
I always joke that all my friends are married. That's you guys. Yeah, like you guys are like the only people I really talk to a lot.
No, here's
Like-
here's what's really cool about that, because I feel like I experienced that too when I was right where you're at. I feel like, and Mike can attest to this, like I didn't necessarily, and this is me being surrounded by also a bunch of youth at the time at the church, Calvary Chapel, Golden Springs. I felt like I related more to guys like Mike and Josh Mendez, Jesse. I felt like I just related more to them, and they were already like in these very serious relationships and like on their way to get married.
Stages in life.
Yeah, and I kind of like wouldn't really mesh so well with the other guys and girls who were my age all the time.
Super interesting.
And what's really cool is the amount of like wisdom that the guys like Mike and them were like pouring into me. So
Do you want me to hide my face so you can
so you know, like when I think about you, just know, man, like I'm praying for that, because that's a hard thing, dude. Like when you're in that place too where you could have a girlfriend right now if you wanted to, but like if that's not what God has for you, then you know, I see that you're waiting, which is good. I know this is kind of a weird conversation, but something Mike was bringing up too, like our mistakes in our past, like they've molded and shaped us. So it's like some of the doors that God closed in my life personally, I see them as just like preparation where God was just leading me and guiding me so that he can get me to a point where my fiance doesn't leave me. You know, she's like, oh my gosh. But you know what? It's like, this is like the molding and shaping of you. And what I would encourage you in is like, keep on this path. Like, keep reading, keep praying. Cause it's funny, cause I was thinking, as we were having this conversation, I'm looking at you and I was like, dude, like we're seeing this guy with all this talent and like just this ability to go out there and like create, and all of a sudden like this thought come to my head, and it's like, dude, like what if this guy's just like gonna be a pastor, and like that's like his, not that that's like, you know, everyone's call, but that thought came to my head. I was like, discipleship is so big.
There's something kind of crazy that's so today at work, I was talking to a guy that really gets along with me, dude. Like we've been on different job sites together. He's a friend of mine, dude. Like younger guy. We've just been like fortunate enough to have like super dope conversations. Not a believer, but like he's curious about stuff, and we just have real dope conversations. So when he saw me, he was super happy to see me because it was his first day on this job site, and it's super far. I'm working out in Northridge. So he's like from even further away from Northridge than I am. And he saw me there. He's like, Mike, like, what's up? And I'm like, what's up? So then today we worked like 3 days together, not with each other though, but on the same job site. And then today he said to me, he's like, we finally got like a little time, and like stopped. He was talking to me, and he's like, how you been, dude? I'm like, I'm good. He's like, how's your daughter? And that's always warming to me when someone like remembers, you know, like it's crazy. That's one thing I always pray about, because I struggle with that. And some of my best friends that are like pastors and stuff like that, for some reason, I think when you're a teacher, your brain is so focused on what God is telling you to say, or that you're not fully receiving everything that a person's saying to you. And so, but this guy did, dude. Like, he was like, how's your daughter? Like, she's going to be 2, right? February? Like, he remember. I'm like, dude, this guy killing it. Like, I didn't even know I told him that, you know? And then he's like, she talking yet? And I was like, a little bit, dude. I was like, you know what, dude? I'm going to be honest with you. Like, my daughter's not talking that much. Like, and sometimes I get a little freaked out where I'm like, dude, some babies at her age are like going, like, and I'm a talker. Like, I'm just wondering. And I wish like my mom was around to ask her like, hey, did I talk a lot when I was little? Or but she's not. And but so these are the thoughts that are going through my head. I'm looking at him, I'm like, dude, I'm just like being honest. I'm like, you know what? Like, my daughter doesn't talk that much. He's like, is she around a lot of kids? And I'm like, no. He's like, that's why. And all of a sudden, like, the dude had this, because he has 3 kids. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, well, what happens is, like, you know, the gap between her and you is so extreme that she doesn't have other little people around her that are showing her that, like, you can do this too. Like, you can communicate, you know? And he's like, so it just keeps her in this place of where, like, okay, she uses, like, signals to show you what she wants. She hasn't made the connection that her words are what you guys are using.
Wow.
And so I was like, oh, dang, that's kind of cool. Like that might be why she's not talking that much. But then while you were talking right now, I was like, in that you are in a unique place in that you're surrounded by conversation that other people don't have. So they're all lacking what they would get if they had that. So you're like in the scenario, you're like the kid who has all of this teaching around you to make you able to understand things that other people don't have. The thing that makes it the opposite, though, in your scenario than like a baby who's not speaking, is that the huger percentage of people are the ones that are only around their peers. And you're in a rare percentage where you're around people that are further into life and maturity, right? Which means that you're receiving things that most of your age group is not receiving. And I always thought that this was interesting to me, is that it was always the ones when I did like discipleship within the realm of church, Golden Springs. Now at Golden Springs, you're talking like I might know at any given time, let's just say roughly 100 16 to 18 year olds, 100, right? Or I might know like the same 70, 18 to 27 year olds, right? Like know all those kids. And it's never been like, ooh, this guy's got the ability to communicate, or this guy's a great talker, or like that. It's never been that's ever made me feel like, ooh, that's somebody that God's going to use. It's always the ones that are drawn to the deeper things that stand out to me. Not the ones that are showing that they got all this talent. Forget that. Like I've seen that. I've seen talent for days, but the ones that are drawn to the deeper things. And, you know, he's one of them. Like Sal was a person I was like, hey, what are you doing? Like, he wasn't just happy just staying with all of his friends and they're all hanging out with their friends and the girls they like, or and just going to, which he had, you know, friends his age in his life and they were, you know, hanging out and stuff, but he was always drawn to the deeper conversation, those subjects. And what that showed is it in like a calling. And I like to use the word calling more than anointing in that scenario, because I believe in both of those things. But the calling is like magnetic more. The anointing is like you realizing what God has done or is doing in your life. But the calling is like, it's like anything else that calls you. Like you're like drawn, like you don't know why you're drawn like that, you know? And so these guys were drawn to these things, like those, like really interesting, like those moments, you know, like, wow, like, oh, I never saw that before. And I was drawn the same way. That's why there were certain people poured into me. Like Dave in Zunza, you hear us talk about him a lot, but that guy took me, like my first interaction with him was a bad interaction. Have I ever told you about that? Like,
I don't think so.
So he like I was already sort of like being a little bit recognized as like somebody who's a little different than the rest of my age group. And I've since I was a kid had like a good ability to like communicate, like use my words to communicate something to people. In some ways I was better then than I am now. I feel like age is like getting me or something, but so that talent like opened some doors where there were like younger leaders, like other younger guys that were pastors that were like, hey dude, you should come, like you. And so I went, and one of the things that was happening is we were all going through a book together. It was probably about 15 of us. We were all going through this book together, and then we were assigned different chapters, not in the Bible, in like this little book that we were supposed to like read it and learn about it and then teach it basically to our class. And we all read it at home, but like now one of us would teach it to us. And I remember thinking this too, because I was already learning that you should be humble. You shouldn't think that you're dope. You shouldn't like I was learning about that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But in my head, bro, I was just like, I'm gonna freaking kill it, dude. Like, I have to go, like, like I'm gonna bring it like the best way I can. So, dude, I was up till like 3 a.m, like just looking at it, looking at what I was gonna say, and looking at like what, like how, like imagining it in my head, like what, like. So I got up, dude, and it was my turn, and I was like, okay, one of the things I gotta do is like super downplay it. So I was just like, oh, hey, what's up? Like, don't go up there all like, all right, like dress professional. Just go up there like whatever, and then just make sure that when you go in, like you freaking go in, like that was like what was in my mind. And I did. I was like, my brain was working, adrenaline was pumping, like thought of every single point that I made and what was important and what I thought. And dude, the room, a lot, like my peers, like guys that were in the class with me, a couple other younger dudes were like, I could see them while I was talking, like looking at each other, like, and I was feeling it, bro. I was feeling it. I was just like getting it, like
Throwing the vibe.
Yeah, I was just getting it, dude. Like as a teacher though, like boom, like, with all the dramatic pauses and everything in there, and then, at the end, like a couple of dudes like got up like, hey dude, that was dope, like wanting to talk after, and I'm not gonna lie, I was feeling it, dude. I was downplaying. I was like, oh yeah, that's cool, like, but inside I was like, dude, you did it, like you did it, and they saw it, like the people saw it. And it was Dave, dude, walks up to me. He's like, hey, I noticed that when you got up, you said you were feeling a little nervous and that you hope that God will say at least something through you, And I was just like, yeah. And he's like, that's cool. Like everybody seemed to be pretty blessed, like by what you shared. And I was kind of like looking at, like, kind of like suspecting that he's like, yeah, I noticed like a lot of the guys wanted to talk to you afterwards. He's like, it's cool. And I was like, yeah. And then he's like, you know what I see when I look at you? And in my mind, I thought, oh, like,
yeah, something good's coming.
Yeah, like the anointing, or like, like this kid's got it. I could see it in some people's faces that's what they thought. He's like, you know what I see when I look at you? I'm like, what's that? He's all, I see pride. And I was like, pride? He's like, and this is what he said. He's like, you went up there, probably studied all night. Like, I'm going to kill it. I'm going to kill it. And then you blanketed it in your little like, oh, I don't know, I'm feeling nervous and I'm not sure I really have what it takes. He's like, and then you sit up there and just indulged in yourself as you delivered your masterpiece. And everybody ate it up. He's like, but not me. I just see pride. Dang. Like killed me like that, bro. Like just killed me, dude. Like I felt like the wind blew my dress up. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, what the heck? Like this dude, like. And then he's like, and one other thing, I happen to have my my collar up. I was like talking to him, whatever. He's like, one other thing. He's like, put your collar down. He's like, it's embarrassing. You just look like somebody thinks they're so cool, you know. And like, I was just like, and dude, at that point, I got mad like a little bit, right? And I'm like, hey, like honestly, bro, like this was what I said to him. I'm like, I come into this place, I'm like, I'm asked to be here. I'm doing the best that I can. I'm like, and then all of a sudden this dude's coming here busting my chops. That's what I said, like busting my chops. I'm like, let me ask you a question, dude. Like, who are you? And he's just like, just a guy.
Dude, disrespect. Dude.
Like, dude, like,
David Zunza.
Dude, like,
shout out David Zunza.
Dude, and here's the crazy part though, dude. Like, and I'm not exaggerating this. I became his pupil, dude. Like, you could talk to him to this day. Like, he didn't just like do discipleship with me. Like, that dude took me into his house. Like, for the next 8 years I would spend with him, like most of the conversation, like wrong, nope, wrong. Like I was just like, dude, like, and I would watch other people, like they would see like the fruit that was coming between my relationship with him. And there would be people who would try to like jump in on it, but they couldn't handle hearing it, dude. Like they would get bitter with him or frustrated with him and I'm not saying he's for everybody, bro. Like he's not for everybody. Like I think he's for a certain thing that God was teaching me at that time in my life. But I say that, I'm sharing that with you because you're in a place that is really orchestrated by God, dude, where like he decides to pull you from so many things that will destroy a young man. He decides to like orchestrate, and then he puts you like in you hear every week these conversations, like and who has that? Like what? That's crazy, bro. The one thing I want to add on to that, bro, though, is just a reminder that like the way you drink from the water, that's all of your like, that's the training and all that. But the way you drink from the water is you going to God, though. You know, like there's nothing, everybody could tell you all these wise things and all this other stuff, but it isn't gonna mix with you. It's only gonna be in your head. It's not gonna penetrate into your heart until you start to see those same exact things in the text itself. Like when you open, like, because the Bible in the beginning, it's always this way, dude. Like in the beginning, it's the stories. It's like this guy doing that, this guy. But notice all these dudes that you hear talking, they're not just telling the story over and over again. Yeah. They're like, dude, it was like the other day I was reading here and like God was just like, and that's where that bridge starts to like become, you start realizing that that's your like firepower. Like that's the one area where you aren't trying to mimic me or him or anybody else. You start to see the refining of like how God made you unique and for other people, you know? So go ahead.
Are there things like that kind of have stuck out to you, either being discipled? I'll call it, it's honestly, it's just hanging out with Mike or like with some of us, you know, but are there things that you could say this first like year and a half that you've really just kind of feel like, man, that was something that is impactful for me, or a lesson or something like that?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, you were saying earlier, like you were kind of like quiet. I feel like I'm quiet too. Like I related to that a lot, and I don't think I'm that great with my words. Like I don't know. Like I don't think I'm a good communicator in like that way, you know. But I listen a lot. I listen to like everything, like a lot of things, you know. And I think that kind of plays into like music, kind of like just listening to like everything. But like I like listening to people talk, and I like listening to like these conversations here. And then so like things will stick with me, you know, like things that you guys say.
That's interesting that you say you're not a good communicator, but yet you're drawn to the communicators, because like even before he became a Christian, like I would see him, he introduced me to the idea of people talking on YouTube, like on screen, like it's like Rhett and Link, like they have the show where they just review food and stuff like that, but it's more than that. Like it's kind of like us, like, yeah, it's a podcast, but really it's just like people talking with
like
each other.
People hanging out.
People hanging out is what it is. You watch people hang out. And like those dudes are good communicators.
Yeah.
Like they have a crazy story, by the way. I'm not gonna get into that, but they're communicators for sure. And so that's the one thing, like my relationship with him really got unique because he doesn't have a lot of communicators in his family. Like my wife, that's one thing my wife struggles with too, is communication. And that's what, like, her whole like environment is not big on communication. Like his mom's shared with me about this, like the struggles that his parents have had in their lives. It's all communication stuff. So, but even though he thinks he's not a communicator, I think he kind of is, but whatever. I know what you mean by that. Like you're not the guy that's like sometimes it's hard to get what's here across clearly. I get that. But you're drawn to the communication. Like, and
in another sense too, he wasn't a rapper not too long ago, and all of a sudden
that's
birth,
exactly.
just growth.
How do you feel about rap? Is that something that you want to keep doing? Okay.
Yeah, I like it. I want to even get like singing good, like practicing. Like,
There you go.
Yeah.
That's what. Let me say something real quick because Nick's not here, and like I feel like it's even easier to talk about Nick when he's not here for some reason. Like that's the big blessing he is, bro. Like when we're together with him, he creates an environment that doesn't feel that weird to like go in on it. Like the way he makes singing, like we're on a track and he's like, oh, I didn't hit that, but he has like an incredible ear. So he'll like mess up and then nail it and be like, oh, like, well, no, I want to do it more like this. And he creates this environment that just erases that, okay, now sing. You know what I mean? That's the worst, bro. Like that's the worst for your voice even. But like we brush elbows with singing and rapping so much that it doesn't feel weird when you don't do it right. Like it's kind of like I've done choruses and I'm like, oh, that's killing me. I don't like that. But we do that so often that it's broken down that wall where he can say that what he just said, like, oh, yeah, I like to sing or I want to rap more or whatever. But that's dope. So do you think you'll ever do like a project like your own?
Yeah, maybe sometime like when my vocal cord does something like
when they settle into who they are.
Yeah.
I shared with him a bunch of times how like my early recording, like one of the biggest struggles I had was like my voice didn't become what it is until like later. And even after my voice had already changed, it still wasn't like what it is now, right? So because his voice completely changed from when he first started rapping to now. And I'm not talking about just got deep, like different, right?
It's like tone, I guess.
Tone. You just start finding, even Nick's voice has changed, like from when he first started. So he used to be more like, like, and now he's like a little bit more in the pocket, but
that's cool. And your voice too, like it's gonna change and it could get better. That's the crazy thing.
Sure.
Is like that. Because if you're really bad, you're really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, but
even really bad can get better.
Yeah,
though.
but like there's actual like you can learn like so when I started singing, I was really bad, and I got myself to a place, not like quickly at all. Like it seems like it took a lot of time of playing guitar and singing. Like, and it was just like. I actually started off with that synthesizer, the one that that I donated to you. That synthesizer. I just played that. Like I didn't, and I got that in Texas at a Sam Ash, and that was like,
what were you doing in Texas?
I was training people for In-N-Out Burger.
So he was an In-N-Out guy before Nick was, dude. That's right, dude.
And I started messing with the synthesizer, and then Scott was kind of telling the youth like, hey, you guys, like there's like open door for worship, you know. And I was like, you know what, like I just felt like I was like, I think God can use this somehow. And I legit would start playing worship with just one note at a time, like like that was what I started off with, and then I learned chords and learned a little bit more of that. And I had already some background with acoustic, so then when there would be opportunity to like try to sing, I'd sometimes be like, okay, I could try to sing, and it was rough at first, dude.
But you rarely hit flat notes though,
which is it's taken some time to like grow. At my peak, I think too, and like I remember there was a season after doing it for a while, and then kind of growing in the youth ministry to the point where then there was like, okay, youth worship like underneath me at that point. I remember there was a season where I was actually doing a lot of singing at Golden Springs, even downstairs sanctuary. And I remember my like feeling like my voice was like at its peak. I was like, dude, this is like, I didn't even know I could hit some of these notes before.
Yeah, I remember watching.
And I was just like, whoa, like this is crazy. And then realizing too that if you don't keep your chops up, like
100,
like if you don't sing a lot, like you could
Yeah.
actually lose those, like hitting it like right on the pitch.
It's so
you know?
true, bro. I lived that one. I was a pretty banging vocalist at one point. I'm not gonna I was though. Like I could hit like, and I've always had like lucky enough like a rasp in my voice too. So it was cool. Like when I would sing with other people that were like singing worship or whatever, like when it was my part of it, I had like a thing that was like different. I wasn't trying to put it on. It was my voice. But boy, did I lose it, bro. Like it's actually interesting that when I started making music with you, it is the furthest away from a vocalist that I had ever been since I started music. So I was like, nope, I'm done with I'm done singing. Like I don't sing. Like that's not my thing. And but they've come back, dude, a little bit. Not fully, but they've come back a lot more. Like even I've gone and fixed some stuff on our album because I was like, ooh, let me get that. Let me make that right now, you know? But yeah, dude, so singing, huh, dude? Let me make this awkward. Sing. So why don't you sing for us right now? No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding.
Right on. So you're working on music. What other projects do you want to see like start up for yourself?
I don't know. I really like filming stuff.
Videography for sure.
Yeah, photography, videography. I like, yeah.
You also have like a crazy appreciation for movies and stuff, right? Like cinematic, like.
Yeah.
Did you know there's a whole job of just creating trailers?
Oh, I'm sure.
Career,
I'm
dude.
sure.
I've been obsessed with that career for a long time. Like, how do I get into that, bro? Like, just making sick trailers, you know?
So, are you? I'm just kind of curious. Like, you're very creative. You're going to school, but you're now like at this point, kind of like at a crossroads in a young man's life, where he's like, dude, do I start studying to learn some sort of trade? Do I, maybe possibly try to become something in my creativity and let that be my finances?
What's your career choice?
Is that something that you think about a lot?
Yeah, that's something I struggle with. Just like trying to figure out what I want to do. What will like make my parents happy, I guess.
Really?
Yeah.
Shout out to Max's parents. Shout out to Marcy and Jerry, dude.
But yeah, I like the past week actually I was talking to his wife Pal, like just about different schools and like what I could do, and like music was just like I want to try to do something with music, just do that full time if there's something I could do, like yeah. I don't know like exactly what I want to do yet, but
I think it must be scary to be a parent like with a kid who is so clearly good at something that is artistic. I think that's a scary thing because there's a lot of kids, I meet them all the time, dude. There's kids that are in love with the idea of being famous.
Yeah.
Right? Or they're performers, right? And performers and people that want to be famous, that's an easy one to squash. Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be famous. You get too desperate to be famous and you will definitely compromise who you are as a person. But just wanting to be like famous or liking that stuff, or you see those kids that are like really take to like a stage in high school or whatever, it's like reality hits, and unless the doors are really opening up for them to go down a road where you can find success, they also will soon find out that they're not tall enough or not quite good looking enough or not quite, for like people to pick them up or cast them. Or
when I first got saved, I thought I was going to be the first Christian like DJ that was like out there. Well, no, that lasted like 2 months.
But right. But the thing that makes Max like unique is like so quickly progressed successfully with creating like music. And that's what makes it like hard to step on that, like even for like a parent, or like, hey, listen, like, but there's things important in life, like marriage one day, a home, like you know, you won't always have people taking care of you. Like I have to like help you be able to do that, you know?
Yeah.
And that's harder to sell to a kid who is killing it with art. Like, right? It's easy to sell to the kid who's like, no, I'm going to be an actor. And then he goes and he's like forgetting his lines and he's not that good, you know? But when you're really doing it, see, like me, that's what makes it tough for me, even as his uncle, because like I believe in the skill. I'm not just like, oh, that's something he really, like I believe in it. Like I believe that it doesn't come along very often that you see a young person capable like that. So
yeah. And on the flip side too, and the crazy thing is like God knows where He's going to take you.
Yeah,
okay?
That's right.
Let me preface that. But there's always the possibility that one day like doors will open for you somewhere where it's like, you know what, like I want to do this and it's not music or it's not something like super creative. Maybe it's like something completely different. And I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to like crush anything. I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that you're at a point where things can change like so much. You have like basically you got a point in your life where you could do whatever you want to do. If you wanted to be an astronaut, I'm sure you're young enough right now where you can go be an astronaut.
Astronaut's coming up a lot lately.
Like, so the doors are just there, and you know it's you're at a really
There's
good
also
spot.
something really dope about this time era in that there, like if you rewind back to when I was your age, in order to make music, create it, record it, and share it, you basically had to cut off everything in life and become a slave to the giant that ran that process. It was record labels.
Yeah.
That's all there was when I was your age, dude. That's all there was. Like, you had to save a bunch of money or have somebody that's willing to give you a few $1,000s so that you can go and pay somebody so that you can record music. Now, this is not even talking about meeting the people who make music. They didn't have the computer stuff that you have to create. It wasn't there like that. So now you got like 3 songs that you kind of came up on. You got one kid that made this beat and another dude from Texas who was talked into sending it over to you so that you could show it to somebody as a demo. And he's hoping that he'll become famous too one day off of your coattail. Now you're turning it in a sea of people that are trying to give their demos that their rich dad sent them to vocal lessons, and they got like their beauty, like Britney Spears stuff or whatever, and they're handing their demo at the same time. You're just some kid like, oh, listen. And at that environment, like I made it all the way to like standing in Sony at a boardroom with a bunch of older people in suits, like, okay, rap. Like, made it that far. Made it as far as to signing a document that I was going to be on a reality show called Rap Rock Reality. I've told you about this. And when that door closed, I was like, dude, I'm never... Those cards aligned are not going to happen again. And, like, it was over, bro. But your age and your era, like, you can be... like a successful business person and making like crazy music on your own with nobody and releasing it to like a fan base that you created. Like, that's pretty dope.
Have you ever thought, or do you know, like the guys who do Splice, like, or the people who are putting music on Splice, like they're getting paid like little bits and pieces there. Have you ever thought of just like creating your own little like samples and then sending it, doing that? Because that's just another route, bro. Like where you could create just like a little sample. The crazy thing is like you're using other like Logic or other little instruments, but if you create that little beat and then just throw it up there, that's like make you be like, look, parents, look how much money I'm making. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Love you guys.
No, it's solid though, because the fear in any parent that's watching their kids say like, I'm gonna be a performer, and then they're like, months later, they're on the street with a hat upside down. You know what I mean? And they're homeless, and they got addicted to the drugs that the people are giving them. Like, that's the fear. But no, there is opportunity to make money. I just met one of the guys, the main guys from Splice, and he heard his music and was like, dude, that's sick, bro. Like,
yeah. Because, I mean, nowadays, though, anyone can, like, become viral overnight. You know, we
Yeah.
got the guy Dogface drinking cranberry juice, dude, going on. What is that?
Good for that guy,
Fleetwood
dude.
Mac,
Yeah.
dude, he was like skateboarding with
Cranberry juice and just playing. Oh yeah, Wiz Khalifa
yeah,
recently.
with Wiz Khalifa. I'm
I
like,
know.
dude, overnight.
That guy's famous
I like
now.
how you read my mind, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, he was skateboarding with. I
But-
saw it. I was like, look at Dogface skateboarding with Wiz Khalifa.
do you feel like for you social media is a problem?
Interesting.
I don't think it is for you either, and the reason why is like you're one of the very few young people who I see who is not glued to their phone. And like sometimes I'm calling you, I'm like, dude, this guy does not check his phone, or he just doesn't like me. But I, for the most part, you usually get back in touch with me pretty quick. But I'm always, but the thought makes me think like he probably doesn't have his phone like right
He's
next
not
to
that
him. Yeah, which is like super interesting because like I have to like tell myself like, okay, just put the phone on silent, put it away. You know, if I want to get away from it. Do you think like there's a problem right now? Like, well, you know
what are your thoughts
Yeah.
on like the fact that everybody in your age bracket is glued to their phone, or you never think about it?
I don't really think about it, but yeah, like I think it's weird because I don't use social media to like
Meet people or
not like that, but like this is what I'm doing today. This is my breakfast. Take a picture of it.
Yeah.
I use it to like creativity, like put stuff that I like that I made, just put it up there. People could see it. Cool. They like whatever. I don't care. But like, it is weird that people like put like a picture of themselves or like, I don't know. I just find some of that stuff kind of strange.
Yeah,
but-
I'm kind of curious though, like diving into your brain, like why don't you care that people don't like it? That's interesting. Because you're like, I'll post what I like. People like it or don't. I don't care. Like, do you realize that that's not everybody your age? That they do care, or you don't even think about it?
No.
See, that's what's so dope about this dude. Like, you're trying to pick his brain. That's what I like about it, though. Like, you're trying to pick his brain on like, you know, like what makes you choose. It's not a choice. It's like it's just the way he is, dude. Like. You know, that's what makes me a little bit laugh on the sidelines when I'm watching him squirm as somebody's telling him, "You're amazing. You're just so good." Like I laugh on because I know him more than most people do, right? And so I'm like, they have no idea how like non-complex, like what's going on up there. It's not like he's sitting here like, well, when I was making this beat, like I was. It's just like loves what he does, and genuinely is a natural with it. Like it's not like. He's not trying as hard as people are putting out half as good as stuff. Like it's just it's just coming. So, and the same thing too with social media. I think I love it. Like I actually dig that. I know when you call me back that oftentimes that you haven't looked at your phone in like 2 hours or something. You know, like I'm cool with that. I don't have a problem with that because that's the way I feel like it should be, and hopefully.
So are you usually like working on music throughout your day? What do you do?
No, like don't get me wrong. Like I'll use my phone. Like I watch like YouTube videos, just like stuff I think is funny or cool or whatever. But yeah, I'm usually making music.
You're not a social media guy though. Like okay, so you're looking at again, like you're looking at a video or something like that, but you're not really like on Instagram, like liking.
Oh no, I'm usually watching videos of like how to do something and like how to make something or like.
Did you know you could use your hat as like a kite? You know, or like.
You did some crazy work with your shoes the other day. What's up? That's a whole nother thing. Like I'm like, and because I've noticed too, and I'm like, dang, like you will post something like that you created and say like, oh hey, if anybody wants some of these, like I'll make it for you, like for like you know a little donation, and I'm like. Okay, like that's
the
some pretty cool
entrepreneur
stuff.
in him, dude.
Tell me about what you did with those Vans the other day.
Yep.
What'd you do with those?
So it's called hydro dipping.
Okay.
And it's basically just spray paint on top of water, and then you dip the shoe in, and like the paint sticks to the shoe, and it looks like super cool, like design, like. So I did that just because I saw some guy do it on YouTube. Just yeah.
And he's also like, I mean, one thing I think you guys don't know about, and this whole world doesn't know about, and like Nick for sure doesn't know about, is like he's an entrepreneur, like by nature. So like, tell them about your plants, dude.
My plans.
Your plants.
Oh yeah, I my plants. Yeah, that's
He grows weed. No, just kidding. No.
no. So my parents had some like plants that they didn't want anymore. So we like dug them up and like I sold them on like eBay. So
Really?
So yeah. So I was like, I don't know how
They were just like weeds.
No, they were
No,
like these
it
little
was like-
palms. So this palm tree was dropping like little baby palm trees
yeah, like
that were
seeds.
growing.
It was like seeds that the palm, like it was like a big tree and like the palm tree was like dropping seeds. So I planted those, and like I was like selling. I think I sold them for like $90.
Except when that heat wave came and killed one of them.
Yeah. I was like,
Somebody was like, I'm interested in the little one. He's like, dude, look, that's my little one. And it was all dead.
$90.
it was like $90. Yeah, I sold one.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then you were doing like some AirPod cases for a while.
Yeah, I did like the headphone cases, and then I did hats.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So I
So-
was just doing that through like high school.
That's another
Make
thing
some
too that I've always tripped out. So like I would go over his house and I was like, what are you watching, dude? Like in my mind, I'm thinking music video or I don't know. They don't even make music videos, but something that younger people would be into. And he's watching like The Prophet, which is, have you ever seen that show?
No. What's that?
It's like a show about this dude who basically helps entrepreneurs who are like not knowing what they're doing. And he goes in and he uses his like super successful advice to like show them what they're doing wrong.
Who's the guy?
His name is Marcus Lemonis.
Okay.
You can look him up. He's like a super successful businessman.
Like a
Yeah.
Gary Vaynerchuk type.
Yeah, but he's like cooler than that. He's like,
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like, he's kind of a jerk. That guy, Gary. What's
Yeah,
his name?
he's a jerk,
He's
for
kind of like a
sure.
jerk, but like no, he's like, Marcus is like super cool. He's like, he like knows like a lot of stuff about business and like.
And he's a pretty friendly guy
Yeah.
for the most part. And the only time he seems like a jerk is when people start to fight back with what he's
yeah,
telling
like
them
when
is
someone
true.
else is a jerk to him.
Yeah,
like,
or when they're like denying, like,
Yeah.
no, it is gonna work, and he's like, it's not working, it's not working.
yeah, he's like
That's
super real with people.
super
like,
real.
Yeah.
But I remember watching you watch that, and I was like, that's not your average like kid. I mean, this was like 2-3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So stuff like that
Dang.
too, like different.
I want to
breed
ask because this is we're kind of like
on it.
on this like
Yeah.
topic right now. Like if you could finish this, and this I'll steal this from Cameron Decchiettis, but I've heard it before. But it would be cool if, and then you fill in that statement in your life. It would be cool if what?
Take your time, think about that.
Yeah, that's
Like, you know, what would be cool, dude. It would be cool if.
Yeah, I'll start.
yeah.
For me, and I've thought this before. It would be cool if I can create a studio, get a space somewhere, allow people to use it. I have some equipment for that, and use that as like a springboard, and kind of like what Mike had referred to when Vision by Dreamers was on, as a springboard for doing like ministry, you know. Which I mean, I'm not like stealing your idea.
No,
Like,
it's cool. I'm not tripping,
I
bro.
feel like I've had like this like thought like oh that'd be like really cool, and then since then my mind kind of changed and went like more like okay, like just get the church building and use it for that. But that would be cool. Like if one day I was able to do that, you know. But what are those things in your mind that you kind of like think and you're like dream of or have visions of, or it'd be cool if, or maybe you're just thinking of it right now.
Yeah, what comes to mind?
I think there's a couple of things, just that things that I want to do. Just like, it'd be super cool if I could like travel. Just, I always like look up or not look up, but like see like pictures of like different places on like Instagram. You know, just like go through like explore page.
Yeah.
There's always like super cool places that I wish I could see. It'd be cool if I could make a career out of like music or just like make money like a good living, because I think that would solve all my problems with like school or whatever.
If you could just show like your parents, like, look, like I can make a living off of this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think also like studio, just have like a place where I could go, just like
Creative space.
yeah.
Right on. When you said travel, like, have you been on a plane?
Yeah. I've been to Mexico.
You took a plane?
Have you ever been anywhere not with
Like family?
what your family wants to do?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so like I only want to share that with you because I think this would be a good goal. Not just like travel by yourself, but even if your family's part of it, but not to be going somewhere for what they want to do as like a vacation, but to go somewhere for the place.
Yeah. Like I don't like something that like even if it's like by myself, like that'd be fine. But if it's like a place where it's not tourist people, like I want to be in like, you know, like, because I feel like tourist isn't like like real place. It's like I want to go.
That's
like
so true, bro.
Stay with like somebody, like Airbnb somewhere with like some dude who actually lives there.
Yeah.
That's like something that I would like to do.
I when I went to New York and stayed with my aunt, she's like, if you ever want to come out to New York, I'm like, I want to come to New York. She was like, okay, like, well, why don't you come out? I'm like, I don't have enough money to do it. She was just like, I'll tell you what, like, I'll pay for you to come out here and you save up this much money so that you can buy your own food or whatever, this and that. I'm like, got it, done. So me and my brother Johnny went out there. We first go out there, she's like, okay, well, Statue of Liberty's here. Like, here's Times Square. I'm like, where do New Yorkers go? Like, where, like, I don't want what, like, she's like, and it's like nobody had ever asked her that question, right? So I'm like, I'll tell you what, give me a map, like, and I got a map, and I was like, how do you get around? Like, basically a lesson on getting around in New York. And me and my brother went out, and the first thing I did was find the New Yorkers, dude. I'm like, hey, where's a good hot dog, bro? Like, for reals. Not like this freaking, where's a good hot dog? And they're like, oh, you got to go down to 115th on freaking. I'm like, oh, there it is, bro. 115th, right? Like, and I was like, hey, where's all the music at, dude? That's what I wanted, dude. They're like, Harlem's where the music's at. Like, I'm like, I'm going to Harlem, but then my aunt was like, you can't go to Harlem. You don't know. Like, I'm like, dang it, dude. I was just a little too young, you know, at the time. But I feel you. I feel the same way, dude. One of the biggest struggles I have when like people are like, let's go to Mexico, like, and I go and I'm like, that's a Dodger hat right there, bro.
Yeah,
like, that's not like that's the, like, you know. Like, but the dude, Colombia, like Africa, like the places I was there with the people, and I was just like, oh dang, okay, that's a completely different experience than me and my family saying, hey, here's a nice hotel where they have McDonald's there too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got to go to Dallas for 2 months with In-N-Out Burger, and they just put us in this little apartment right there in the city, and some of it just felt like being in California, but some of it I would go out and it was like there's this place called I think the Stockyards. Felt super Western, like, but not like Western like old Western, but like America Western, like, and we were going out like, and it was like I was with a group of like secular guys, just, you know, trying to be holy amongst them, but staying good, but there was something like really cool just in the vibes that I was getting, and like just feeling like these people sometimes like for their pastime, they'll go to this little, like, it's almost like a little rodeo. And it's just something like they would go out to do. And they had the bars that would be around, but like other people who were just hanging out, like it wasn't crazy or anything, but really seeing just different parts of that was like super cool. And then also too, what I loved, some of my favorite like places of travel were, like I think you started to get into it, Colombia, but I've had some crazy journeys in the Amazon where it's definitely not like touristy, but it's also not like average, like this is your average lifestyle. It's like that was
extreme.
Yeah. I remember one night in particular
when we were eating monkey brains.
I remember one night in particular, we went into the jungle with this small group. Actually, shout out Chachi Martinez.
Chachi, there it is.
Me, Chachi, and then a group of like 12 of us went deep. They got this tour guide for us who was like, oh, like this guy's gonna take you out to go hunting in the middle of the night. And I was like, oh, cool. And I see this dude, and this dude looks like he's like 100 years old and leather skin, going out taking us into the Amazon. A group of like 12 of us, we're thinking like, all right, we'll go out for a couple hours and we'll come back. Like 4.5 hours deep later, dude, we're moving. And then Scott's like, all right, we're going to camp. Like, we need to stop. And then Chachi's arguing with the tour guide, like, dude, like, you keep telling us you're taking us to this spot where all the monkeys are. But, like, there's no monkeys here. Like, we're like, and I'm seeing literally bugs, like grasshoppers.
That's the one thing
that were like this big, dude. And I hate bugs. I do not like bugs. And I had a mosquito net over my hat, and I legit like would see, because I also had a light, like a mosquito like come at my face and hit the net and bounce off of me, and I was like, no. And I was going deeper, right? And I remember we got to a point where like our group was like, yeah, we're just gonna stop here, like, and then the tour guide was like, oh, like if we just go a little bit further, that's where the monkeys are. And so like Chachi was like, all right, like told the group like, hey, like just wait here, like I'll go with him. And I was like, hey, like I'll go with you. And he was like, all right, come with. So it was just me, Chachi, and this like 100-year-old Amazonian like dude like out there. And we had a rifle with us. The Amazon guy had a rifle. And at a certain point, like we're walking and I'm praying, because I was like, I felt like I didn't want to go back without catching something. I was like, dude, if I go back and like all of us went on this trip and we go back to the main group on the mainland, and we tell them like, yeah, we went hunting and didn't catch anything, like that's gonna feel terrible. I'm like, I don't want that. So I'm praying. I'm like, God, and also too, like keep in mind, like I'm a young like Christian, like trying to learn about faith and about what it is to like have this relationship with God of faith. And I'm like, God, like please, like just please bring the monkeys. Like I just wanted to go back.
Were you guys trying to kill monkeys?
We were trying to kill monkeys. Dude. We were gonna eat them. Okay, so it wasn't just for shooting for sport.
I'm not sure. That's
better. So then we're out there, and I remember we got to this point where the guy was like, okay, like just stop, like. It was me, Chachi, and him, and then we just stopped, and we're like sitting out there.
He's all, stop, I'm a fraud. I don't really know that.
And we're in there, and we're just, it's, by the way, like the canvas of the Amazon trees is like, you can't even see the stars because it's so thick. It's so thick and also super high. But you can hear, like, it sounds like you're in Jurassic Park at the same time. And it's hot. I'm sitting there, like, just waiting, like, okay, like, is something coming? And then I remember, like, just feeling like, okay, you know what, God? Like, I thank you for, like, bringing me this far. Like, it was a cool journey. Like, I love it. It's cool. And then, so, Chachi argues with the guy enough to, like, and he's, like, talking to him in Spanish, probably cursing at him or something. I don't know what he was saying. Chachi was Jewish at the time, FYI. Anyway, so he's like, all right, we start going back to meet with the group. And all of a sudden, like, the guy's just like, hey! And then you just hear, boom! Like the shotgun or the rifle just goes off. It's so loud. I was like, oh, snap, dude. And then this guy walks over and picks up this huge, it looks like a giant, like, guinea pig, dude. It's like huge. It's like a dog, like, right? And he shot the snout off of it. Oh my and so gosh, it was like and then he comes at it with the machete, dude, and he finishes it, right?
You watched that happen.
I watched this happen. And then he goes up to this tree, right? And he starts hitting the tree with the machete. And then he gets this piece of bark off of it, and he starts peeling it off. And he's just like, and he peels off like the bark of this tree, and then ties the animal up on his back with the bark. And now it's like he's got this backpack of this dead animal. And I was just like, this guy knew what was up, dude. Like this guy's for real, like straight Amazonian warrior. And then we're going back, and then Pastor Hector, like, we finally meet up with the group. And in my mind, I'm like, God, like, you did it. Like, I thought we were going for the monkeys, but you wanted to bring this, like, it's called an alpaca. Like, you wanted to bring this animal to us.
An alpaca?
Yeah.
Isn't an alpaca like a freaking llama?
No. Oh, no, it's a spotted paca. Oh. Not alpaca. Yeah.
Alpaca. Okay, yeah.
And so as we're we
Googling
keep
spotted paca.
this is in the future. I want to get you on the laptop where we'll be able to like look stuff up on a computer. But like, hey, like pull up a spotted paca. That'd be really cool.
That would be dope.
So then we're going back and we meet up with the group.
There's gonna be a spotted paca in this podcast. Just trust me.
Max, do the magic. And because we thought it was like a 2-hour journey turned into like a 9-hour journey, and the water that I had in my Camelback is all gone. I ended up having to share it with other people because like we're like freaking we're dying of dehydration, literally like to the point of dehydration where it's like dangerous. And Pastor Hector, Chachi's dad, was like, oh, like I will bring us the pineapples, don't worry. And then like he takes us to this place filled with pineapples, dude, just growing out of the ground, chops it off, cuts it, and then we were all just grubbing on like pineapples, dude. And it was like at that moment, like so good because like we're dehydrated, thirsty. And from that point on, pineapples became my favorite fruit, like because it was so good. And then I didn't know this till I recently did the podcast with Chachi, but all those pineapples were actually like some lady's like farm that she had that was just completely like went through all her pineapples. Yeah. And then Scott and Chachi ended up paying her back. But so I bring you up that story because I just want to like share with you, like, dude, like sometimes God will take you to places that you would have never brought yourself to or imagine, like if you didn't get out of the lane that you were in and just open yourself up to where he wanted to take you, dude. So keep going, bro. Keep going.
Super sick. That was
Crazy story.
I like that. It would be awesome if, what was that? It would be
yeah. So the idea, because we did go on a riff there, it would be cool if what?
Yeah, so yours was make music and
Travel.
It would be cool if I could help people like truly be free from the lies that this world pushes on us. And to watch them like become something awesome for God. Like I used to think I wanted to be the one doing something awesome for the Lord, but now I think I want to watch people do something awesome for the Lord. It also would be awesome if I didn't have to be a construction worker for the rest of my life.
Right?
I'm nothing against construction, dude. I'm having a blast in some ways. There's some great dudes out there, and I've become more of a man than I was before because of construction.
It sounded on our last podcast I was listening back to, I was like, man, I feel like we're bashing construction workers right now. But then you say that because you are a construction worker, FYI.
Yeah, I'm not, dude, trust me, I'm not worried about hurting construction workers' feelings with that. If you're a construction worker and you're listening to this, you already know. Trust me, they're not like, why are you making us sound like, they know, bro. Yeah. It's crap out there. Like, it's crazy. Like, they're animals, bro. You don't stay in construction unless you're some sort of animal. Like, especially real, like, construction, you know, like, but I don't think I was made for construction, dude. Like, if I'm just being transparent, like, I don't think that that's my strong point. I think that that's just my, like, endurance in whatever God put me in. Yeah. Like, that's what keeps me there. But it would be awesome if I could make a living off of the talents that God gave me. That's what would be awesome for me. If I could just find a way to make a living off of the talents that God gave me.
I feel like after like sharing this stuff, I'm just like, dude, like we should really go for Vision by Dreamers.
We can. We can do that. I know, because it's so closely related, like what you said.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even have to bring that up because you already know. You guys already know what my vision is for that. Like I pray that the right coffee shop guy catch his vision and
Chachi, we need you to come back home, Chachi. Just kidding.
Dude. I mean,
Just
I'll
kidding.
never, it has to be God. It
Yeah.
has to be, because I've already seen what it's like when you talk people into stuff. I'm not down with that no more.
Yeah.
And my vision is I'll do the church side of it, like Bible studies, like the coffee person will run the coffee, the music person will make the music, and like every person that is in line with the vision that brings what they have will have a place where they could put that stuff and run that stuff there. And to basically to be a giver with it. So like there's another Max, I've said this before, there's another Max out there who doesn't have an uncle, you know, who like raps and has these friends. So like that kid, I would love to meet that kid and like hear what he's making and be like, hey dude, what are you doing this Friday? Like, why don't you come on down and to give him like a creative space there where it's like our studio's there. Like he has keys to it. He can go there anytime he wants and sit down and create. And then we could just be like, dude, every other Friday or whatever, we get together. We make a song every Friday, even if it never makes an album. Like we do that constantly because we have to just keep ourselves and bring kids in, dude. Like some kid who's a sick rapper, or like meet some kid like, hey, dude, you ever spit over a track? Like, oh, I would love to. Like, why don't you come on down over here, dude? Like, here's a flyer. Come down. Like, we do this so often. Have them come down and dude, record them, give it to them, send it to them. You can have it. Like, boom, he's posting it with his friends. Look what I made or whatever. But to just be able to give back like that to these kids that I once was in something that I know how to do. Like, I understand music. Like, we understand music. Like, and to be able to give back to people selectively. I'm not trying to say that I'd be favoring, but it's not just like, I'm not trying to start a school or something. I'm just saying like to have an environment where you can bless people like that. And then I picture, dude, I just picture like once a month we flip burgers there, dude, and like make music there, dude, and you know, clothing line stuff. Like we got our camera set up. Like imagine this whole place didn't have to be put up in like it's there. Like that's where we do our podcast. Like it's always there. Like we sit at that table when we do any announcements for work, just to create this place, dude, where people can come. And the reason why I always bring up coffee, dude, is because coffee houses are one of those few places that people go to and they sit there for hours. Yeah. Like they go there to be there. Not just like, that's why whatever, Starbucks commercial, like, and it's not even about the coffee. It isn't. It's just, it's just the environment of a place where people come and they're there all the time. And they just hang out there. And that's what I want to create, dude. And I would love to be able to make a living off of that. You know, where people are both seeing it and donating to it because they see that kids get to make music out of it. So you got donations coming in. You got coffee that's bringing in a consistent amount of money for the building to be able to be there. You have donations for like a Bible study that goes on there, maybe multiple Bible studies throughout the week, like just a vision for what it is, and then eventually be able to turn into something successful where we can then say, this can also be duplicated. Like now you can have one. Obviously, if people are driving from Pasadena to wherever, like, dude, you could also have one here, like the same thing. And obviously it'll never be exactly the same, but where it has that, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's just what I see, bro. Like, that's what I wish I could do. And maybe that door will open, bro. Like, but to me, this is where it starts, like this. Like, that's why I stay connected to this. I can't, trust me, dude, like, there's an amount of weight paid to do this every week. Yeah. You know, I'll be up super early tomorrow, but it's worth it to me because it lines up with what it is that God's always put in my heart. You know, so back to Max.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry,
I got
dude.
one more, a couple more questions as we're winding this, I think, podcast up. But do you feel like there's things that are, in your walk, like kind of like could be pitfalls for you?
The snares that for Max.
What do you mean? Like,
Is there, you know, like things that you are you aware? Because when I look at you, I see like a guy with so much potential. And are you aware that there's pitfalls like in your life that can pull you away from this awesome adventure that God has for you?
That's a good
question.
question.
Is that something that you've thought of before?
yeah, like I know that like music can be done, you know, like that could be over and then I'll do something else. Like I know that, like I hope it's not like that, you know. I hope I could do music, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Can you think of a way, like, okay, just like God's real, so Satan, right? And he wants to destroy what God wants to do in Max's life. Do you think that there's some ways that you might not be aware of that he's like, oh, I'm gonna get him like this? Or maybe some that you are aware of, you're like, dang, could he get me like that?
I don't think I've ever thought about it.
And that might be because military mentality is to know your enemy, right? But in the anointed young men in the Bible, they were most in tune with who God was and trusting God to fight their battles. The only thing that every person should be is self-aware. Like, know what things can trip you up. Not necessarily knowing Satan, but knowing yourself. Like in what things can get you. And just know that those are things that would be healthy for you to find out. Not by doing them, certainly not, but just by knowing like, that's interesting. I think in your case, dude, if I can be honest with you, because I've dealt and came across a lot of people, I think in your case, it would be probably more something not like so obvious like everybody else, like, oh, like this guy, you know, he started getting really into drugs, but more just like in that you feel different than people and feel that they don't understand you. And that can grow into like feeling like these people that think that they're close to me or they don't really know, like they don't. And the one thing is that the Bible says that there's nothing that comes upon a man that isn't common to all men. It just shows its face differently. Like all of us have things in our lives that we kind of like question God a little bit. Like all of us have those things, but we learn by faith to trust God because he's shown us that he's trustworthy. The way that you'll look back at your life and realize that he orchestrated all of that stuff that happened, like conversations in the car and the meeting before then, and knowing where your heart would be and the way he's closed other doors and the way he'll open up doors ahead of you. You start to build a trust in the track record of God in your life. So you learn that you could trust him. And then you start to take those things to him that you don't really understand. You're like, what about this though? You know, what about that? But be aware that there have been many people at what they don't understand about God will push them to a place that becomes the source of why they don't believe in God. I've seen it happen. I think that's what happened with Rhett and Link. Like when we talk about like there is like those moments you're like, okay, yeah, like God's real, but what about this, dude? Like what's up with that? Like I don't. And we talked a little bit about that with Ivan's podcast, and that the healthy perspective on that one is to understand how small we are in our mentality towards what, like how much God knows more than us. Is when you start to really, I realize this because I've been surrounded by death a lot in my life, but when you see how quickly life could end, you start to realize how small life is. Like even these thoughts come even with my daughter. Like I look at her and I know the way a parent feels ownership of their kid. Like this is my daughter, they're my everything. But I look at Rowan and I'm just like, you're just a little vapor too. Like fingers will be snapped and you'll be an old woman. And like all I have is this little moment, like my life, dude, my health. Sometimes I'm like, I don't even know if I'm going to live to be old. I don't go on and on about that, but I've had crazy stuff happen to me, like my kidneys, my liver, like my freaking, You know, like a lot of crazy stuff happened to me. And I sometimes look at like my daughter, I'm like, I don't know how long I have, but I'll do the best I can. But I never feel ownership like, this is mine and this is what I'm going to do with it, you know? And I think that's where it gets dangerous when people start to think like they don't realize how tiny they are. So I'm remembering that you're tiny and that life is tiny and that wherever we go, right? Because we Christians always try to act like we know what heaven's like, but nobody who went there, like Paul said when he saw it, like, these are words that I couldn't utter with words what I saw. So I trust his opinion more than all these other books, like, oh, heaven's God, or these people that are like, we're gonna be doing this, bro. I don't think you know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do know this: wherever we're going, we're gonna be there a whole lot longer than we're here. That's the one thing that I always wish I could share with people is like when they're like challenging God or when they're like, you know, I don't know, like, what about, I'm just like, dude, you're banking this little life against where you're going to be forever. Like, and you're like challenge, like I've learned to trust God and I've learned to stay silent on things that I don't really know. Because I think it's where Christians go wrong. Like I shared this last time, like one of the big mistakes they make is always making it sound like they know everything. It's like, you don't, dude. So, but maybe that could be something to be aware of. Like, okay, because with uniqueness that makes you different from a lot of people in your gifts, you're going to experience uniqueness that make you different than a lot of people in just who you are. You know, so remembering that we have been uniquely and wonderfully created for a purpose that God has for us, and that Satan would love to dangle in front of us an option for what we should do with who we are. You know, be like, hey, do this, like follow this. And it's like, no, you know what, dude? Like I handed over ownership of my life. Like that's the one thing that's cool is like my natural man who Mikey is, whatever Satan can say about him, it might be true, but guess what? He doesn't belong to me. Mikey doesn't belong to me. Mikey belongs to God. So when Satan's like, you should know, you would be happy if you did this or if you did, it's just like, well, I don't belong to me, bro. So, you know, I keep that thought. Like, I think it's a healthy life to remember the promises you've made, you know, and so anyways, though, but that is a good question, dude. And something to ponder, like, you know what, Lord, like, show me if there's any areas that I'm not aware of that, you know, like if we were studying like someone, like let's say we were just like for the wrong side, right? Like we were like little minions for Satan and we were studying somebody and I'm like, hey, check this out. You see the kid like over there, super strong, always on course. You ever notice that every single time he gets to the corner of that lap, his mind drifts off and he starts looking up to the right? You ever notice that? And you guys are like, I never noticed that before. Like he does every time. See, so like if we can comprehend that as just people observing a person, we know that the enemy's smarter than us. He's been around longer than us. Like he's aware of the way our tendencies, the way we are, you know? And so I always try to, that's a good thought-provoking question, dude.
Yeah. Cause what I've seen in your life is when I first found out you gave your life to the Lord, I was like stoked. I was like super cool. And then I was like, all right, well, let's watch. And it wasn't like this like immediate burst of you. Cause like you've kind of stated, like, you're not like the super most outgoing guy. So it wasn't like this immediate, like, oh, like I know for sure Max is like this Christian, but what I started to see was a consistency of you being around Mike, being around myself, and listening. And I started to see, like, for sure, like, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing with us if the Lord wasn't in it. I know that. Because you have this genuine love for hearing these conversations and for giving other people the ability to do that. And so I kind of was like, I have a piece about you really coming alongside and helping us out with this, because I feel like that's something that you had this desire to do. And after some time, I started to see, like, because I was looking at you as like, oh, Max is like this guy with like all this talent that like we really need to mold and shape the talent. But then we started to see like, nah, we really don't need. We're kind of just like starting to see like he's got this talent on his own that God's given him. And then I started to see like, wait, like there's like a whole spiritual side of what God has planned for Max. And that's when I'm kind of like thinking of like, okay, like God, like what is my role? What opportunities are you going to give me to like be able to just be around you, you know, and to just kind of share with you when you're going through stuff, or just like being your friend, bro.
Yeah, that not to crowd your plate any more than there already is, but there is a whole other conversation to be had besides what you do, what a person does that defines them and their talent and what they enjoy, and then what they have to do obligated for like a life and a living. That seems to be the two subjects in your world. Like, this is what I like doing, and this is what I have to do. Like, I have to figure out a way to do this. Like, those are the two avenues. But he brings up a point. There's a third avenue, dude. And it's actually the most important one. The reason why, like, I personally I don't like to push about it is because then it can feel just like anything else that's pushed on you. Like, I have to do this. Like, I know. But, like, the only things that will last into eternity are things that we did that were eternal. So, like, even, like, my music isn't eternal. But the time I invest with you is. So, the same thing, too. Like, this podcast isn't eternal. But the way it can impact people is. So that's the third avenue to start to include the way you inquire from God, like with his plan for your life. Because believe it or not, more doors are opened by the hand of God concerning that subject than doors open concerning how you're going to make a living, and doors open concerning how you enjoy spending your time. More doors are opened by God himself concerning how you impact people eternally. And I think more people could use that thought process in their life, Christians I'm speaking to, because sometimes we've been tripping over ourselves for so long because we're trying to balance what we have to do with what we like to do instead of asking God to open doors based on how we can impact people for eternity. God can fly open doors like that. I've seen them. I think that's the next step in like the direction of like the things that we all do together, is to really start to just be like, okay, God, like which parts of this is like the eternal impact, you know? So that's a good lesson. That's good, dude.
Right on. Well, I think it's time to ask Max, how can we pray for you, bro?
Just like, I think clarity. Just like clarity in like what clarity in how to grow with Christ. And then just like in my life, like growing in my life, just like, you know, like where do I go from here, you know?
That's a good request. Where do I go from here? You know, I think that question asked, where do I go from here, means a certain amount when a boy asks his friend, right? Means a little bit more when he asks an adult. Probably means a little bit more when he asks a teacher. Like, where do I go from here? Teacher, especially a teacher who's invested with him. Like, so where do I go from here, you know? But of the biggest impact when he asks his creator. Because you think about a kid dreaming with his friend versus a kid seeking wisdom versus a kid who trusts that somebody knows him and has trained him. But the deepest of all is somebody who trusts the one who created him and made him different and special and limited and all of those things. And I think that that question that he always asks, how can I pray for you, is the way we end all our podcasts. Like, it's become the way we end all of our podcasts. But in your case, I think it's more telling because of where you're at. It's a crazy place where you're at. I don't think people that, if anybody watching this, like, I don't think people realize like when they see you here with us or whatever, what your relationship is with us. And so you literally are like our living example of what it is to like pour into somebody around you. You know, that makes you sound like a guinea pig, but like it's the truth. Like, it's just the truth, you know. But I've made a mistake if I fail for you to know that, like, that is the question. Like, where do I go from here? And the best person to ask that is the Lord. So I think that'd be dope to like go finish this in prayer.
Yeah, I think you should pray for him. I also think, real quick, on that note that you just said, like how important it is for us, Nick included, like, as he will learn from our strengths, but he will also learn from our weaknesses. Like, he will learn from the things that we misrepresent or fail in, either good or bad. Like, some of those things will rub off on him, which is like, dang, like the seriousness of discipleship. But I mean, all that to be said, Mike, we love you, Max.
Love you guys too.
Let's pray. Dear God, I thank you so much for this podcast and this opportunity that you've given us, Lord. And so often we wonder what will come of it, but I am often reminded by you, Lord, to make sure that I do enjoy what it is. And I certainly do. And I have no less enjoyed this conversation with Max and the time that we spend at this table. This table really has become a place where I get to know people that I'm close to. And I dig that. And I'm so thankful for it, God. But specifically, I come before you on behalf of Max. I stand in your presence, God, to say that, first of all, we love you, and we do realize that there's more that you're doing in our lives than we recognize or know. But I'm so glad, Lord, that you've orchestrated and brought Max where you've brought him. And I pray, Lord, number one, first and foremost, that from you he would receive direction, that you would begin to close doors that are not being opened by you. And it doesn't matter if the pressure's coming from his favorite people or people who love him the most or any of that stuff, Lord, that the truth is that this is a young man who has been separated unto you. And so we give him to you, and we ask that you would take his life and guide him and direct him, and that you would show him where he goes next. I do pray, Lord, that you would open up doors in front of him, utilizing the gifts that you've given him. I pray also that he would have the freedom to be a young man, and that religious people wouldn't get their claws in and start creating stuff that isn't really your voice. So much of it is things that we create culturally, but that he would find who you are and what it means to walk with you in your word and in the time he spends talking to you. I pray that you would tug on his heart in times when he's driving by himself or walking alone, that he would remember that you're always there. You've been there since he made that decision. You've been standing right there the whole time. And that you hear him and that you know what's in his heart. So I thank you for this evening that we've had. I pray for Sal and his engagement and the direction that you're leading them. I pray for myself, my wife, my daughter. I pray for you to use all of our lives, Lord, and show us a way that we can lift each other up and help each other along the road. We thank you so much. I pray these things in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.